Historically, marijuana has had a reputation for being the devil's lettuce, right? And today, that reputation has changed. People believe that marijuana is harmless, it's safe. It's not really a drug, it's an herb, for instance. And they tend not to realize that for some people, marijuana is actually very dangerous. I've seen a lot of justifications recently for why marijuana is safe. For instance, it's legalized in a lot of places. In my state of Washington, USA, it was the first state to legalize marijuana. And now with pot shops popping up all over the place, it's just as casual to go buy a gram as it is to go do your groceries. In fact, I used to see it that way. I used to pick up my weed when I did my groceries, and that was essential to me. I smoked a lot of weed. I was very proud of that. I was a major stoner pothead, and it was something that, like I said, was very casual, you know. I smoked every single day, all throughout the day. I wake and baked. I'd start my day with 2 bowls in bed before even going to shower, and then after a shower, I'd hit another bowl, and I would just kind of have bowls roasting all throughout the day. I would just casually be hitting them throughout the day. You could say that I was a bit of a high tolerance stoner. I could not even get high at the point that I stopped smoking weed because my tolerance had been shot. Now, the issue of having a completely plateaued tolerance gave way to a bigger issue, and that was psychological trauma in the form of psychosis. I did not know, as many people don't, that psychosis can be triggered by marijuana. It can actually be triggered by a number of substances, but marijuana tends to be one of the more common ones. And as someone who didn't really dabble in anything else, I really did buy into that perceived notion that marijuana is safe, that it can't cause any issues. So when I started to show symptoms of psychosis, I had no idea what caused it. I didn't even realize I was psychotic. I continued to smoke marijuana, not realizing that this was actually what caused the episode. It destroyed my mind. It absolutely destroyed my mind. You know, I do have a psychotic disorder, so this does happen on its own, but I'm also an addict. Unpopular opinion, people can be addicted to marijuana. I am one of those people, and I can put down any other drug. I don't like drinking alcohol. I'm not inclined to do coke or whippets or anything, although I have tried them. I'm just not interested in them. Marijuana is my downfall. And when I dive into my addiction and when I go to the furthest lengths, I land myself in the psych ward. See, when people think of marijuana and how it can't be addictive, they're thinking of typical stoners. They're thinking of the average user of marijuana, which often are not addicts. You know, it's not the most common thing to be addicted to. A lot of people aren't addicted to it, but when you're looking outside of marijuana being the addiction and addiction being the addiction, it doesn't matter what the substance is, and it can absolutely be marijuana, because there aren't necessarily marijuana addicts. There are addicts. Addicts can use any substance addictively, including marijuana. So I myself, as an addict, yeah, my drug of choice is marijuana, and that's not addictive, but I'm an addict inherently. That is within me, and I will go to those lengths. I will make myself go homeless. I will get evicted. I will go no contact with my family. I will end up in abusive relationships. I will do that for the sake of marijuana. So while marijuana is what triggered my psychosis, it was so much more than that. Because you'd think that after going psychotic once and learning that the source was marijuana, a person would stop smoking marijuana and they would give up that drug. Maybe they wouldn't get sober, but they'd at the very least stay away from the one trigger that sets them off. Now, like I said, I'm an addict, and addicts don't take kindly to the word stop. So while knowing that marijuana would trigger psychosis in me, despite saying that I would do anything to stay out of psychosis, that was the one thing that I would not do. Stop smoking. Stop smoking marijuana. I couldn't do that. I knew that my worst nightmare in the world was psychosis. There is literally nothing more horrifying It is more terrifying than anything that is possible in normal reality. I would rather die than go psychotic. For instance, I've told people, if that happens again, please spare me. Like, if I could be euthanized, do anything to stop me from going through that again. I cannot handle it ever again. I could not stop smoking marijuana. All of that being true, what was also true was that my addiction could not be stopped. So yeah, I would do anything to stop it, just like I would do anything to quit smoking marijuana. I just simply couldn't. I tried and I tried and I tried. I tried to moderate. I tried to go cold turkey. I tried to get rid of all of my paraphernalia, and then I would just dig it out of the trash. I smashed my pipes just to go buy more. I was even rolling joints out of receipt paper, which was disgusting because I threw out all of my papers, my lighters, everything. I was desperate, and there was nothing that would stop me. I told myself that if large quantities of marijuana triggered psychosis, all I needed to do was moderate and just smoke a little and not smoke every day. And I tried that, and let me tell you, there is no large or small amount of marijuana that won't trigger my psychosis. I had cut back to smoking 2 or 3 hits off a roach, like the butt of a joint, every couple of days, and even that was enough. That triggered my last episode of psychosis. After having put myself through that so many times, losing the awareness and losing control and not even knowing I was psychotic and ending up in very harmful situations, being repeatedly traumatized, not being able to stop myself, that was my bottom, was that last episode. And I used to think that was a pretty high bottom because I was used to going psychotic. But it's not normal to go psychotic, and it's especially not normal to put yourself through psychosis willingly because of an addiction. See, that's where the addiction really shines. That's where you can tell this isn't your average marijuana user. This is an addict, because I had no rationality. Like, I did not have it within me to comprehend how to fucking stop. Like, I literally could not within me stop. And so I knowingly put myself through the worst, most traumatizing experience of my life over and over and over again. Normal marijuana users don't do that. Addicts do that. So that's how I knew that I was an addict when I went into that episode. I think that was my 5th episode, or my 4th. No, my 5th episode. I was fed up, I had tried moderating, and I had enough lucidity that I was aware I was going psychotic. And that was very scary. It's very scary to know you're going psychotic and know that there will reach a point where you will break. So I was desperate. I would try literally anything to prevent it this time. This was the last straw for me. Like, I told myself, this will never happen again. I have a chance. Like, while I'm going through these symptoms, I need to go to the hospital. I need to get sober. I need to stop this before it takes over my life again. So that's what it took for me to get sober, was to go psychotic for the 5th time. I believe every one of my episodes was related to marijuana in some form or another. Some of them were triggered by other things, but marijuana always played a part. It was always part of the triggers. There were issues with medication in the past where I was over-medicated, under-medicated, off medication, so that played a part as well. But there was never a time between my episodes that I was sober. I was always smoking weed, which was just creeping on towards an episode, and I wasn't doing anything to stop it. It was incredibly hard, but in a couple weeks, I will be 4 years sober. And it's no coincidence that in the time I've been sober, I've been mostly psychosis free. Unfortunately, getting sober wasn't enough to stop the psychosis from coming on. So for the first 8 months that I was sober, I was still psychotic, and I was hospitalized 3 times, and the meds just didn't quite want to take. So what I thought was a relatively low bottom, because it was my normal, was pointed out to me to be a much worse bottom than I'd thought, because most people's bottom don't entail staying psychotic through most of their first year. A lot of people have laughed at me. I've gotten a lot of flack online for saying that I'm addicted to marijuana. People literally get angry at me or laugh at me I've had my treatment counselor laugh in my face. She asked me what my drug of choice was, and when I said marijuana, she laughed at me. And she quickly corrected herself and became much more professional when she realized I wasn't joking. But that is often the response I get, because people don't know what a marijuana addict looks like. And like I said, they think of the typical marijuana user, and most marijuana users are not addicts. If you think of an addict and you take the substance out of the picture, you get someone like me who repeatedly puts themselves through psychosis knowing that the solution would be to stop. Anyway, whether you believe me, whether you agree with me or not, that's my story. Unpopular opinion, but marijuana addicts do exist, and the consequences of a marijuana addiction look like me. They look like psych wards and homelessness and abusive relationships. They look like literally losing your mind. So just whatever you get out of that, take with you today, and maybe you learned something, maybe you didn't. Nonetheless, thank you for sticking around to the end of this video. I put out new videos every Monday and Thursday, so stick around, there will be another one coming soon. Bye.